Bass. Hard times ain't nothing at all. Really come from a struggle. Real. Move around Michael Buffer. Life. Always ready to rumble. Let's get it. All that mean is off the muscle. Y'all can't match my hustle. Screen bucket, that's a cuzzo. Bigger key to no muzzle. Lately I'm feeling exhausted. Think I'm tired of being humble. Yeah. Coach all on the duffel. Chip on my shoulder, you don't wanna ruffle. Where I come from, everybody is cutthroat. Could've been dead, I'm just doing what I'm up for. My old homie jumped off the roof.
Yo, family. Welcome to another episode of the Coach Life Podcast Radio. I am, of course, your host, the casual one, the Prince of Positivity, Coach Steve. Join with me, as always, Coach Luna. How are we doing, brother?
I'm doing good, man. Fighting through it, but I'm here and I'm excited to go ahead and talk about this topic. I feel like this topic is one of those. Again, we do a good job of trying to touch topics that affect everyone, but I feel like this one's one of those ones that I don't think men do enough of.
Oh man,
we'll go ahead and expose that a little bit, and make sure that we go ahead and move forward from this and start doing better with it.
100%, man. 100%. You are 100% right. We are definitely going to be doing some exposing here. Join with us, as always, the CEO, founder of the Coach Life Podcast Radio and the brand about building your brands. Coach Lloyd, how are we doing, brother?
Are we doing good, man? Just making it through this weather transition, but we all right.
You know it, brother. You know it. And our special guest, back again, chop it up with us one more time, had a hell of a time on the first pod and the second, and now about to do it one more time. Coach Rack, how we doing, brother?
We doing good, man. We doing good. We doing good. Back to back.
You know it.
What that boy Drake said.
You know it, man. You know it, man. You back to back like the Clips, bro. We got you.
Yes,
Coach
sir.
Luna already alluded to this already. But we have a very interesting topic. And Coach Rack, would you mind telling the fans out there what is our topic for today?
Oh, the topic today is going to be about vulnerability. Vulnerability is going to be the topic for today. Pretty good topic. I'm excited. To dive in.
Oh, yeah. As Coach Luna kind of alluded to, expose, right? Because this is a topic that a lot of people do not want to talk about. And we're going to kind of dive into multiple different aspects of vulnerability. So first and foremost, let's go into vulnerability in its general sense, right? What does vulnerability mean? So I pulled up the quick little definition really quick. Again, referring to the state of being open and exposed, both emotionally, physiologically, and the possibility of harm, criticism, or rejection. It involves letting one's guard down, revealing one's true thoughts and feelings, and acknowledgments of one's weaknesses and limitations. We can break this down in a multitude of different ways. But I kind of want to focus on 4 individual areas, and we can kind of dissect as we kind of go through our topics for today. And I want to talk about it in a more of a emotional sense, in an intellectual sense, an interpersonal sense, and a creative sense. And we'll break down each one of those as we kind of get through the rest of the pod. But let's take it over to an altered coach's corner, where we kind of make this topic a little bit more relatable to a present topic. Let's take it to the gridiron, fellas. We had a football game just recently with our lovely Colorado and our lovely Coach Prime, who took a very fantastic L. Coach Rack, what do you remember the score of that game?
A lot to a little.
Yeah, a whole lot to a whole little.
So it was 6. Was it 42-6?
Yeah, 42-6, I believe. Yes, was the ending of the box score. That press conference, Coach Prime had to kind of put his foot in his mouth a little bit. Had to take back a couple words, right? Had to really be vulnerable because he was getting beat down by the media at that time. Coach Rack, take us to Coach Prime, and what do you think in his mindset? As most people know who Coach is, and they know how he is. take us through his mindset and what you think where was his vulnerability during that press conference or during that loss in general?
Man, if you know Coach Prime, and you've watched him over the years, I guess through his coaching, I'm not gonna lie, man. He handled that. I don't think he could have handled that press conference any better. I think he hit it. I mean, it was just he faced it just to the chin. You know, I don't think he gave any excuses. I didn't see any excuses that he gave. I mean, he said they whooped our tails. You know, that's just what it was. He said, if y'all gonna get me, y'all better get me right now. You know, because we loading up, and I know exactly what that means because I remember when Coach Prime first got to JSU. People don't remember this, but it was actually the COVID year when they had that spring semester they played in. I don't know if he went 6-5 or something like that. But a couple of coaches was able to get some close wins on him because he didn't have all his guys there. They were still in the early parts of introducing a new way of things over there as they was doing at JSU. So I knew exactly what he meant by that, but I'm not gonna lie, I'm happy to see that he, kind of took it for the most part. He didn't waver, he didn't show no excuses, and he let them know like, hey, they got the better of us, and they came out there and whipped up behind. So I mean, that's what you want to see from a head coach. When you turn the TV on, you want to see your head coach be up there facing it the way he did. Also, I actually appreciated that he came out and was like, I think there was a narrative. I don't know, Luna, Coach, if y'all remember during the week, there was a narrative if you watch Undisputed, but Keyshawn on Undisputed was insinuating that other coaches were calling in to help game plan against Colorado, and Coach Prime shot that down. And he's just like, we game planning like that all the time. Coaches, it happens all the time. Coaches call us, Coach Luna, I'm sure you remember, but I mean, hell, when we go in and play another team and we know any coaches on the previous staff that had a good game plan against them, we call them up. And 100%. It happens in college football. So
that's basic.
I appreciate
that.
I appreciate it. Yeah. He didn't bite. He didn't bite. They tried to give him all these even differently, and he didn't bite. He stood down. So I appreciated that.
He stood his ground, and he stood on what he said. Right. And I took a loss, and this is what it was. Coach Lloyd, from a coaching standpoint, obviously, I mean, you've coached a number of years. I've coached on the football with you. We've taken some L's together. We've taken a lot of wins together, and on the football field, from a coaching standpoint, take us through that mindset of we know we're about to lose this game right now, and how do you keep your frame of mind for the rest of the players?
Well, we kind of talked about this in the previous pod as far as like leadership. Everybody's gonna follow the leader, right? Keep your composure, stay cool. Everybody see Coach calm, Coach cool, collected. He's still calling plays. He's confident in what he's putting out there, and your boy's gonna work for you. Now, your job is to keep them motivated, let them know it's not the end of the world, and finish the game as strong as possible. This is a part of life. L's happen, but at the same time, we don't quit at any point during that L. Right? You gonna feel me. You gonna feel me. Almost like a soldier. I'm like, if I'm dying in this war, somebody coming with me.
Right.
This is what we train for.
There you go.
And that's how we got to work.
Coach Luna, it took a lot for Coach Prime to swallow that loss, but just like Coach Rack said, he did it with grace. He did it with grace. Give us where you saw vulnerability in the press conference that he had with the press.
Well, I mean, him knowing exactly what just happened and knowing how much publicity that team has been getting, he knows that no matter what, he's going to get every single team, and that team should know by now that they're going to get everyone's best shot. I heard it on the podcast I was listening to the other day, and they were talking about how, Colorado may be the first team in history to have this gigantic target on their back without national championship recognition.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying? And that's strictly because of the confidence that the head coaches have. And Prime is the prime example of the new age era of coaching. But he's still, and if you pay attention to like how he runs his program, it's not that much different than a lot of these a lot of these Alabamas, Floridas, like these schools these prestigious schools that got these old coaches and old coach mindset. He still runs a very strict program, but he lets those kids have their personalities, and they just got to be themselves within the parameters of how he runs his program. So the way he conducted himself throughout that whole interview was just to make sure, like, I'm not going to give anybody more ammunition, but y'all also going to understand that this is the best shot that y'all going to get on me. Y'all not going to get me again. Not like that. So it's one of those things where he said, it was one of those things, I recognize what y'all did, clap, clap, congratulations. But it's still a long season ahead of us. Because last time I checked, y'all only thought we could win 3. You know what I'm saying? He already, he's already 3-1 already, or right there at what Vegas had him at?
3-1.
3-1
So,
now.
Right now.
He's already surpassed expectations of what, moneymakers and all those guys have already done, but that's not his mindset. And those kids feed off of that. So the way he conducted that press conference is the exact same way he wants those kids to conduct themselves on and off the field. You know what I'm saying? Like, you're going to have this confidence, you're going to wear it. And then when things don't go your way, you still going to wear it. But just understand that next time they're going to go down like that.
Yeah. And you said something I want to highlight, because a lot of people don't realize it's about Coach too and the way he's running his program. How you said it's really no different how he's running the program from, any other program at Alabama. So I think the biggest praise I've heard about Coach Prime so far was from his defensive coordinator that came straight from Alabama, his DC. And he said, you know what? I've been doing this, I've been in this business for a while, and obviously you guys know I've coached among some of the best. And he said, in terms of, they was asking the difference between Coach Prime and Saban, and he was like, to be completely honest, from the way these guys prepare for, day in and day out, the way, in terms of the meeting, the organization, the culture, and everything like that, they are about 98% alike. This is verbatim from the DC. He said they're about 98% alike. The difference of those 2% is what you see with Coach Prime. That's the difference of the 2% of Prime being Prime. But after that, if you take away the curtain and you look at what's actually happening behind the scenes and the inside of the program, this program is run very, very well and is very structured. And that was crazy. That's a crazy stat that and to me, that's a big praise, on how he's running his program and the attention to detail that's going on. So I don't know, man. I think them boys I had them at 5 or 6 this year. I think they're gonna probably they gonna get to that 6-6. Me personally. Yeah.
I gotta also piggyback off of that, because there was a couple things that were said that obviously Coach Prime carries himself a certain way, and carrying himself a certain way and walking a certain way, he's got his team walking with that same type of confidence, right? They're still moving forward, right? When we talk about vulnerability and we talk about what mentors can do to help people understand the benefit of vulnerability, the biggest key of that is leading by example. Mentors need to show that they can be vulnerable, that they can share their own experiences, their challenges, their mistakes. They can talk about and demonstrate that it's okay to be vulnerable and be open. And I think this was very, very important for his players to actually see that, hey, sometimes we're gonna make mistakes. Sometimes we're gonna have challenges. Sometimes we're gonna have roadblocks. Sometimes we're gonna have haters, right? We're gonna have things that are gonna come against us. But that shouldn't stop you from continue to push and move forward, right? And I also think too that he's created this safe environment for his team where they can be vulnerable with each other. They can have those conversations. And I think, again, as a leader, as a mentor, that's super important, is to create that environment for your team so that they can feel I can come to you. I can have these conversations. Coach, I don't like this. Coach, I don't like that. You know, or whatever the case may be, right? They can come to you and have those conversations and establish a non-judgmental space where we can get on the same page. We can have conversations and without criticism, without ridicule, right? We can self-reflect on certain situations and really get down to the root cause of where the problem is. This is a team that I feel like is definitely going to bounce back. I never saw just 3 wins out of this team. This is not this to me, because of the coach. Again, a leader will make you climb mountains. They will make you move mountains if you find the right leader. And I've seen it myself. I've watched it with my own team. I've watched it with other people's teams, where if you find the right leader, the right person to motivate you, there is no limit to where that person could potentially go.
I got a conspiracy for y'all.
Oh man,
Uh-oh.
Conspiracy corner is in.
Y'all been
Activate.
seeing.
Activate.
Y'all been seeing. Listen, y'all been seeing Prime in all these commercials. And who in these commercials with him? Who in these Aflac commercials with him?
Save
Beside the duck.
Big Saban.
Yeah.
Big Saban.
Yes, sir.
And guess who? What was that? 2 weeks ago, he had that ominous press conference where it sounded, people were like, "Hold on, this sounds like somebody giving a farewell speech."
Oh, here we go.
Ooh.
Hey,
Dion in Tuscaloosa. You heard it right here. You heard it on the Coach Life podcast.
On tape.
September
tape.
27th.
On tape.
Hot tape. Put it on the table.
There it is. There it is.
It ain't gonna be Dabo. Not no more.
Look, let me tell you, they already got their guy. Okay, they already got their guy.
They probably
You want to know? No. I ain't talking about Saban. You want to know who their guy is, man? Who their guy is? Their guy's also in the SEC. What school I'm talking about over there?
Sarkeesian.
Nope.
Lane.
Hey,
No,
ready for that Lane, boy. Nah, I'm just messing with you. They're gonna bring Lane back.
No, sir. No, sir. I honestly, I kind of want to see Prime stay where he is right now for a little while, because I want to see him establish a program, just based on his mindset and his culture. I would think it would be cool to see a program prosper underneath him that he grew, right? Not something that he's taken over for somebody else. Just my 2 cents, but again, he got to go where the money is, right? At the end of the day.
I mean, he don't have to.
You don't have to. You're right.
You don't have to.
Because they kind of didn't. Wait a minute. The
money is in Colorado. Technically,
in Colorado, didn't they?
I mean,
they forward him money that they didn't have to get him initially.
Yeah, absolutely. The president said, "We're gonna front you this money, and then we're gonna raise this money to make sure you get your money."
Right.
No, guys, come on. We gotta think along the lines here. The AD had the money from the beginning. The reason why he said that is because he's trying to raise money and he's trying to rile up people to donate. As you know, donations went up as soon as he said that. He's been had the money, but he knows as soon as I say that, everybody that is normally a donor is going to be thinking like, let me open these checkbooks so we can keep Dion. You see what I'm saying? That was just a marketing ploy, bro.
Yeah,
as soon as he said that, I'm like, that's marketing. Them boys ain't going, bro. The school is not going to write no blank check open and they can't cash it, bro. Nah, it ain't happening, bro.
No, they definitely got bread. But you know what also has happened that I read that they made about 90 million already in apparel or just sales so far
across the country. I mean, because people are buying it everywhere.
Yeah. They said school they didn't brought in quite a bit already early in the season, so they won't worry about.
They've generated $97 million of revenue for the athletic department, and that's through like ticket sales, apparel, and all that stuff.
Just to be there.
Yeah.
That's a nice 180 for them, though.
True enough.
They won't see nothing like it.
True enough.
Right.
Fellas, let's get into some benefits of vulnerability. I think we talked about the first thing already, which is building trust. Let's kind of talk about that and dissect that a little bit more. Coach Luna, building trust and vulnerability. Why is that important, sir?
Man, look, I was thinking about that all the day. I was like, man, this comes like into that evolution theory of like what came first, the chicken or the egg. And when it comes to trust and vulnerability, it's like, all right, what goes first? Trust, then vulnerability, or vulnerability that builds trust? And I think it kind of like ties into like our last topic. I think it kind of comes down to like who that person is to you. And I'm not seeking benefits from the person, but like, can this person provide me with something of value when I expose this? If that makes sense. You know what I'm saying? Like, there's certain areas in my life that I can't expose to certain people because they don't know, or they're not very knowledgeable in that certain area. You know what I'm saying? So the vulnerability with the trust, I think, is what you trust that person as your friend, as, you know, for example, like my wife, I can go ahead about vulnerability about anything with her. You know what I'm saying? Because it's completely an open book. I mean, we with each other damn near 24/7, 365. You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
But with your friends and stuff, like there's certain things that I could come with vulnerability to rack and vice versa, that with other friends, like they may not be as open. So therefore, I'm not going to just give you expose myself to you, because that goes back to some of the things that, you know, when Rack had sat me down in the backyard was like, don't overextend yourself. And that's one of the things, like, you can be vulnerable, but don't let yourself be too vulnerable. You know what I'm saying? To where now you're overextending yourself, and, you know, it's like a leech. You know what I'm saying? Like, for people trying to, you know, take stuff out of you, you know what I'm saying? And you're losing more and more of yourself in the process. And then you look back, you lost everything that you could give because you gave everything out.
Coach Rack, expound on that, because when we talk about trust, and again, you gave some very gold nuggets to Coach Luna on not extending yourself. Where's the line?
Yeah. I think the line goes with exactly what we're talking about right now. You know, how much do you trust in that person? And they naturally draws that line there, you know, because the more you trust people, the more you will let them into, you know, your world closer and closer. The more you're not trusting people, the more further out that line and that boundary is going to be, you know. So I think it just comes down to reciprocation on, you know, what you're giving out and also what you're able to receive from that particular, you know, those people. And, you know, I'm big on that, because at the same time, you cannot continue to allow your other people to be vulnerable to you if you're not able to be vulnerable to that person, you know, or if you feel that you can't trust, you know, that being able to be vulnerable to that person, you know. So I mean, that's the line. That's where the line draws, you know, what we're already talking about right now.
I just turned 33, and that's my word for the rest of the year. It's reciprocation. That was my post when I did my toast. That is like my theme for the rest of time, man.
So let's get into another big benefit of vulnerability. Let's talk about emotional growth. Again, when we talk about emotional growth, we talk about acknowledging those vulnerabilities that can kind of help individuals process and overcome emotional issues. Again, going to help you lead to that personal growth, give you that resilience, right? That you need to continue to push through. Coach Lloyd, emotional growth. Let's dive and dissect emotional growth a little bit more. What does that mean, and the benefit of that invulnerability?
Ooh, it's tough. I like it. It's tough. I mean, you have to be in a certain spot, in a certain place in your life, emotionally, to be vulnerable, right? It takes the best word I can use right now is emotional intelligence, right? You gotta have a certain, you gotta have the right, you gotta have the right level of emotional intelligence, in order to just not be clouded kind of like what alluding to what Luna and Iraq already said. It has to kind of be balanced. You can't be too emotional to the point where you can't be conscious of how much you're giving, and that reciprocity has to be there, like they said. So you have to get to a certain point where, like, this is where I'm at. This is what I'm seeing. This is what I can deal with, and this is what I have to offer. And then also pay attention to what you're getting back from who you are extending yourself to, right? So you do have to have balance with both, in my opinion, and that takes time, right? It takes a certain level of self-awareness to be able to do that, and without the self-awareness, it's going to be tough to have the emotional intelligence you need to be vulnerable.
I want to expand on that because I think it also gives them an opportunity to learn how to manage their emotions better.
Right.
Because now I understand. There's a meme that I heard a couple days ago, and I should find it so I can play it, because I don't want to paraphrase this, because it was powerful.
What they say in church, take your time.
All right, exactly. I'm gonna take my time on this one. So what was said was, there's a reason why the seats in pre-K are different than the seats in 5th grade, because there's certain places that your ass just shouldn't be at a certain point. Right? There needs to be a point of maturity that happens. And when we talk about that maturity, that comes with that emotional growth. You have to understand your mental. You have to understand your emotions. You have to understand what are your issues? What are the things that are stopping you, and the feelings that you're suppressing, to stop yourself from getting to the point where you feel healed. Right? A lot of us walk through a lot of traumas, emotional wounds, and that's leading to a bunch of other, issues, deep-rooted issues, and they haven't really grown from those particular pieces. So emotional growth is, again, it's a continuous journey, and vulnerability is probably the first step that's going to help you get that emotional intelligence that's needed to find that self-awareness for yourself so that you can continue to grow. So I like what you were saying when you were saying finding that changing your mental. And I think that's the point that you've got to try to get yourself to, where you can start changing your mental focus.
So I got a question. So is it kind of sounds like we are saying vulnerability is really kind of like that's the test to the emotional growth.
I agree.
To some degree, you got to put yourself out there first to even see if you healed, because you don't know if you healed until you reintroduce to something.
True enough.
Because how you respond is going to expose
whether or not you emotionally mature.
Exactly.
That's true.
Take it to the physical aspect. Think about it. Most of us, I'm pretty sure every one of us on this call has had an injury, a significant injury, and having a significant injury, I'm pretty sure when you started to get yourself back in motion, you probably were a little hesitant, but you had to do it to make sure that I still got it, right? If you broke a leg, right, or if you broke an arm, or if you had a number of concussions, right? You probably were a little hesitant to get back out there for a second, or hit the same way, or run the same way, or catch the same way. You probably had some doubt, right? But in order for you to be vulnerable and have that growth that's needed, right, you have to put yourself out there, like you're saying.
100%.
Another very big key of vulnerability, Coach Luna, problem solving. In order to be vulnerable, we got to problem solve.
What did Tom Brady say earlier?
Man,
what you know is limited. What you don't know is limitless.
Yes.
And to me, that ties in perfect to what we got going on right now, because when it comes to problem solving, you know what you know, and you don't know what you don't know. You know what I'm saying? So shit, Rack will tell you all the time. When it came, especially when I was like starting to see, like, all right, can we do this investment, this investment? Me and Bree, we hopped on the Zoom with Rack. When it came the first time when we started surfing, like every single time I have something that is just like could be involving something with real estate or some type of business or anything like that, I bring it right to him because I'm not going to sit here in front like I know anything about it. He can at least give me a background introduction to something that I can go ahead and he can bring it down to a terms that I can understand to be like, okay, that's what that means. I had no idea.
Yeah.
So therefore, like I can start gauging whether or not I want to go forward with this or not. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
To me, with problem solving with any type of topic or subject, you have to have that vulnerability to understand that you could be wrong. You know what I'm saying? And that a person is more knowledgeable than you in this topic.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? One thing that I cannot stand is when people try to have conversations with people who are knowledgeable in these topics and they have the nerve to try to interrupt or try to like put their beliefs in place. Like, hold on, am I the one like hosting this? You know what I'm saying? Like, I'm trying to
proving to that person that what they're
like,
capable of knowing.
I'm giving to you right now. Like, just listen. You can save those other questions and all that side points and all those talks for yourself later. You know what I'm saying? But that problem solving, that vulnerability also goes with pride. Put your pride to the side. You know what I'm saying? For you to be vulnerable, you have to let go of your pride. And if you have pride, you can't fake vulnerability. You know what I'm saying? Like, I can tell when it's not being, when it's not genuine or it's, like, what are you asking me this for? Just say, like, this is fake, bro. Like, you trying to get back in good graces or something? Like,
that's called insecurity. Instead
of
like,
don't put your insecurities. Don't put your insecurities on me, man.
True enough. Coach Rack, can you follow that up, sir? When we talk about problem solving from a vulnerability standpoint, having that willingness to be wrong, right? And be able to ask the question that some people may not be willing to ask, right? Why do people have that fence, that gate that stops them from opening the door to ask the question? Because I don't want to be wrong.
Yeah, man. I mean, most of the time it's fear-based because because they're not being vulnerable at the time. But a lot of the time it is fear-based because most people, instead of asking the questions or the right questions that they really want to ask, it's having the courage to ask the question just from the beginning in the first part. In class or in an environment when you're in, whether you're going to a seminar or a class or a webinar, and then everybody is just like, yeah, is there any questions? Is there any question? And no one asks a question. And then that one person that asks a question pops it open. It's like they open the lid off. Now everybody has questions that, and all it took was just that one person to be vulnerable. All it was taking was that one person to just have the courage to say, you know what, I'm going to ask this question. And then it's going to motivate the second and the third and the fourth person to follow behind because somebody has already popped it open. Well, sometimes you don't have those other people around when it's just you and that other person. So you have to be the person to break through those fears, through that barrier, and be like, all right, I'm going to ask this question. So that's why I'm the big proponent of, when I'm talking to, some of the people that's close to me and I'm checking in on that person, I'm the one that will ask, how are they doing in terms of, because I think it was another podcast it was watching on the on Brandon Marshall in this podcast, when they asked in 3 different departments, how they're doing, from a spiritual standpoint, from a business wise, and then from a mental emotional standpoint, their overall mental health. I think that's definitely very important. And to be able to answer that question accurately means that you got to have a level of vulnerability.
Man. Coach Lloyd, let's talk about the next big piece of vulnerability, another big piece. And I think Coach Rack already kind of alluded to this. I know Coach Luna already said this. And it's funny because everything we talk about, it's like a circle. It all goes back together. It's like a circle. Shout out Coach Ryan and his new baby boy as well. And Juice Box out there.
Circle of life, baby.
Circle of life, man. Circle of life. Look at that, man. It's all coming back. It's like a circle. Anyway, authenticity. Vulnerability is tied very closely to being authentic. How do you see authenticity in vulnerability?
I don't want to sound too simple, but you can't be afraid to be yourself.
Man, can you say it again for the people in the back? I don't know if they heard you.
You cannot be afraid to be yourself, and especially if you are very different than most. And most are afraid to be themselves, and that's why you have clones. People, monkey see, monkey do. I was fortunate enough to come up around a man, my father and grandfather that I spoke of before. And how can I put it? You already know how pops talk, so I'm trying not to swear by quoting all the things I came up around. But you talk about a man who was like, I'm just gonna say it. If you got a problem with me, fuck you. That's what I came up. That's what I came up around. That's what I grew up around. No filters in that household.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
True enough, yo. True enough.
Steve,
shout out Papa Wash.
Coach Steve, like you want to talk about raw? Like, what's that one clip of Bernie Mac from the Bernie Mac show?
Mm-hmm.
We say F him.
Yep.
F him. But yeah, you gotta be comfortable in your own skin, man. That's vulnerability at its finest. Like I'm out here. This is me, and like, yeah, whoever fall off because they got a problem with me, let them fall. I'm more of a dice roller. Like I got no problem being vulnerable up front. And then, kind of like what Rack say, when you talk about overextending yourself, I've definitely had times where I've done that, and I ain't got no problem eating the L because I done took many L's in my life anyway. We gonna double up after that because ain't nothing but a learning opportunity. So be yourself, because the sooner you start doing that, the sooner you gonna grow up and glow up.
So let's dissect something that was said. And I'm paraphrasing right now. Coach Lloyd said, people are afraid to be themselves. And that's a big reason why they're not authentic. Coach Rack, do you feel that people are not necessarily being themselves? Maybe they may not know themselves.
Oh man, that's another tough one. Yeah, it's a tough one. I mean,
trying to ask the hard questions.
Back to church, take your time. Take your time.
How I feel it is like definitely going to depend on the person, because I mean, you don't know. There's some people that it can go either way with, but like Coach Lloyd was saying, I think most of the time, man, it just comes to, people not being their true selves. That's just what it comes down to majority of the times, as you get older, after a while, you should know yourself by then. Some people still figuring themselves out at a younger age. That's cool, but the reason why people don't know themselves is because they're chasing an identity that that's not them, and that's just what happened. That's why you don't know yourself, because the true self that everybody knows how they are inside. You know what I'm saying? Most people know how they are inside, but what they display on the outer may be different from how they is on the inside, and when you chasing so many different identities, you fucking lose the type of person you really are. You use who you are, and then now you don't know. It's just like some people that just goes through these deals where they're losing an identity and all that stuff, is because they're continuing to chase these different ways of other people that they may be around. So I'm with Coach Lloyd on that one, man, when he said just being able to be true to yourselves, for sure.
I love that answer, Coach. I love that answer, because yes, I do see, and I'll take this to the office standpoint, and I actually had a couple conversations with a couple of teammates of mine where we've had some coaching opportunities where I was able to coach them through certain situations, and I've had one teammate literally tell me, I did not know that I would feel this way, or that I would process this way, or I didn't know I had these feelings before, right? Because kind of like what you said, Coach Rack, is that they've shielded themselves from who they really were and wanted to be something else. So I know internally who I'm supposed to be, but I'm not going to be that person because I'm ashamed. I may be ashamed of that person. I may not have the confidence that this is the person that I really want to be, right? There may be a multitude of different reasons why you just choose not to be the authentic person that you are. So we shield ourselves or create this false fake individual. Our representative is what one of my coaches used to say all the time, is that you always show, when you go on a job interview, you don't get the person that's actually coming to work every day. You don't get that person. You get their representative, right? This is the person that you want to vote for, right? That's the person that you're getting on the interview. You're not getting a true person.
Real talk. To be honest with you, I don't think it's too many people that really don't know themselves, to be honest. There are things, I think there are people that don't know their strengths and
I think
weaknesses.
exactly. I was going to say
think
both, bro.
that's part of knowing yourself, but at the same time, like the core of who you are, you're gonna develop and figure those things out as life goes on, right? And that goes back to the self-awareness I spoke about. It's just you accepting it yourself, and once you accept it, now you can do something about it, right? But as far as like the core of who you are, it's up to you to share that with the world. I think people know who they are to the core. The things that they don't share, even if you talk about like a child or even an adult, it's something in a journal and a diary somewhere that will tell you all about them. And the fact that they wrote it down tells you they know who they are, but they shared it with the book. We don't know. We don't know what they're going through. So I think the core of that is I think people really do know it's still just a fear thing. I mean, everything else can be built upon.
I'm glad you said that, because that kind of segues us to the fifth and probably one of the most important things when it comes to vulnerability. One of the benefits is improved communication. In order to be vulnerable, you need to improve your communication. You got to be honest. You got to be open. You got to have open communication. Again, that's the cornerstone to any healthy relationship, is to have open and honest communication with each other. And in order to have open and honest communication, you must be what? Vulnerable.
Thanks.
When we talk about improving your communication, how has communication helped you, Coach Luna, when it comes to being vulnerable in just your everyday life? We're not going to take it to any one particular facet, but just in your everyday life, because again, we all men on here, we've all been vulnerable, which we'll talk about a little bit more in a second. But Coach Luna, from a communication standpoint, how has that helped you remain vulnerable?
I mean, this just kind of goes into just personal beliefs on how I believe we as men should communicate, and people, period, is make eye contact. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's such a like, people say it a lot, but I don't think people understand the importance of it. You know what I'm saying? Like, even when you're talking to a big group and there's that one person that's making eye contact, you're like, okay, that person's engaged. You know what I'm saying? That person's paying attention. And then all of a sudden, that's the person you gravitate towards to ask a question to. You know what I'm saying? But I'm big on just making sure your chest, your chest is big. You're not slouched. I'm big on eye contact. So a lot of those things to me is just like, to me, basic eye contact is just enough to say that you're engaged in the conversation and, you know what I'm saying, you're listening. You know what I'm saying? Like, even though your eyes don't have to do anything with what you hear, But as long as your eyes are paying attention and looking at what's going on, those other senses go ahead and pay attention as well.
Right.
You get what I'm saying? So I'm big on that when it comes to just everyday communication. Another thing, just be direct. I've read this book and I always keep it in the back of my head because it always talks about how feminine energy compared to masculine energy. Feminine energy is like all over the place, but masculine energy is like very direct. And I always had to kind of catch myself to be like, all right, I got to remember that. I got to remember that. I got to remember that. Especially when I talk to my wife about certain things, because I'm not around the bush. I'm like, there's the bush and there's what's in the bush. I'm not worried about what's coming up the street. I'm not worried about what's around the bush. I'm worried about what is right there in the bush, directly in front of my face. So that's part of me that I got to constantly like just kind of remember and not get frustrated about it, because sometimes it's just like, that's not what we're talking about right now. We're talking about bush, like right here. But those are the things that you just got to like constantly understand of like, all right, accept it and just kind of like, all right, we can segue this. All right, you see that, but refocus, reshift. Let's get back to the topic at hand. You know what I'm saying? But I would say those are main things for me, is just like eye contact and just show me interest, like body language. Like you can give me eye contact, but just think about having a conversation with somebody and their body's facing this way, but their head's facing you. You know what I'm saying? Like that's just weird. Just give me your full frontal, you know what I'm saying? That's why they don't have stadium seats facing sideways so that your head can turn. They have everything where it's full frontal attention.
Right.
And I think you can't give proper attention to listening to someone if you don't give them that full, proper frontal attention. You know what I'm saying?
100% agree with you. I mean, you even took it. I mean, you took it even deeper than what I was talking about. Like you talking about even just the physical being of you paying attention and giving me that communication just from the physical being of you looking at me, you addressing me a certain way, you sitting a certain way. Again, that speaks volume as to building that trust that I can have a deeper conversation with you, a deeper level conversation, because I know you're engaged.
100%, man. You know what it is when you have certain conversations with certain people, and you can just tell whether they're not engaged, or this is a conversation topic that they really don't want to do, just based off body language.
Basically, what you're trying to say is nonverbal communication is just as important as communicating.
Absolutely.
You know
There you go.
yeah,
100%. That's a perfect way to sum it up.
Yeah. And it's facts, because you can tell when somebody's locked in, engaged by just their demeanor. When you go into a locker room, you can tell who's that guy. When you go into the office, you can tell who's that guy. If you go, like, if you remember, man, in the sales department, when in sales, when I used to be interviewing people and I interview sales, it's just a certain swagger. Like when I was interviewing, sales people to come onto the team, like if you didn't have that certain locked in, engaged, confident, head up, looking in my eyes, like it's just certain things that you want from, certain positions and even when you communicate with some people that you look for. So I know exactly what you're talking about.
Yeah. Rack was looking for that cornerback energy.
So right. Let me ask you a question. Let me ask you a question. So does vulnerability breed confidence, or having confidence lets you be a little bit more vulnerable?
We hitting all the subjects today.
Because that one just kind of like what he said, because like it really interests me, because I feel like they both tie in, but which one is introduced first, or which one usually happens first?
I think confidence happens first, because for you to be vulnerable, I feel like you have to have that self-confidence first. If you don't have self-confidence in yourself, there's no way you're going to be able to be vulnerable about whatever it is that you're trying to be vulnerable about. Being vulnerable is confidence within itself. So it has to start with you having confidence into being vulnerable. If you don't have any confidence, then you may be scared or afraid to be vulnerable from the beginning. So I see people that are very confident within themselves are the same people that are okay with being able to be vulnerable. And you have people that are less confident, shy, they really don't, they really timid, or they don't like opening up about certain things. These are a lot of the times people that lack confidence, and that's why they're not even able to be vulnerable altogether.
100%. I totally agree with you on that, Coach. I will say, though, on the flip side, it is possible for somebody that does not have confidence to still be vulnerable. They just may have a different level of vulnerability that they're able to share. So again, that vulnerability, right? Again, we talk about the different levels of it. So I have seen individuals, I'm not going to call them out because I know they listen, but those individuals that aren't very confident that have been able to be very vulnerable and be able to show that vulnerability. And sometimes I know a particular individual that can't turn that vulnerability off. And again, kind of like it's like a water hose or fire hose, right? Just there's too much vulnerability. You might want to tone it down just a tad. Again, you don't want anybody to take advantage of you because you're just being completely vulnerable, right? Here's the keys to my house, and here's my bank card and everything else, right? Like, help me manage my life. That's probably not the best way to go about everything, right?
Yeah.
I want to touch on something when we talk about vulnerability, and I know this is a sore subject for a lot of people. Normalizing failure, something that we do not do on a regular basis, because the key that's always been pushed, just like in most things, as men, we hear all the time, we don't fail, we don't fail, we don't fail, we don't take L's, right? We don't fail. Gentlemen, we failed a lot. That's the only way that we've been able to grow. It's the only way we've been able to expand, and the only way we've been able to get to the level of success that we've had. I seen this meme a while back where it showed this guy on a trampoline, and he's on the trampoline, like right next to this really high flight of stairs. And he would fall off the stairs and hit the trampoline and bounce back up. And then he would start over, and he'd fall off the trampoline and bounce back up and be halfway. And he'd fall off the trampoline and be 3/4 of the way, and he'd fall off the trampoline and have to start all the way back over. Like he was showing a progression of failure. I continue to fail, but I'm able to, again, hit the reset button and start back over. Normalizing failure, fellas. Why can't we do this as a culture, as a people, as men? Why have we not normalized failure?
Programming you just spoke on.
Go ahead, Coach.
No, I was just saying, you can go ahead. I was just saying the programming that you just spoke on, we're taught that way for some reason. At some point in time, that has become the way to operate for some reason, and that's just been handed down.
Machismo, the macho man. You know what I'm saying? That's what it's always been. It's like, you know what I'm saying? We have to be the big bad, can't cry, can't show nothing, can't show no emotions and all this other stuff. I think that was like, whenever that became like the prominent image of what a man was supposed to be, it set our psyche back because we didn't understand the complications and consequences that was going to have by trying to bottle everything in. You know what I'm saying? Like you shake up a freaking bottle, no matter what. You don't, the minute you pop that top out, what's going to happen? Explosion. Mm-hmm. And we fail to acknowledge our mind as a actual part that we have to work out. You know what I'm saying? Like we think, a lot of people just think, all right, if I exercise, it's going to help my mental. No, it's going to help declutter, but you still got to go ahead and, you know, read some books and do some self-reflection and, you know, do some things like that. And hell, if you don't read books, talk to somebody. You know what I'm saying? And I feel like a lot of people just have too much pride to feel like, to say everything is okay. Like, nah, bro, not everything is okay. I know it's not. You know what I'm saying? Everybody has their 1, 2, whatever thing that may be going on. Everybody has their certain battles that they're going through. You know, so having that understanding that it's okay. You know what I'm saying? Like, you're not alone. I'm currently battling some myself. And just that if they can see how you're approaching your battle, it gives them the confidence to be like, you know what, I'm tripping, bro. I can't do this. You know what I'm saying? Like it may take a little time, but it's possible. So let me get over myself, and get to it.
Support group.
There you go. Support group.
Yeah.
Got your support group, but you got to make sure you get that challenge, right? Because now we got to make action happen. It's great that you understand that there's an issue. Now we got to challenge ourselves, right? Coach Rack, let's talk about failure, sir.
Yeah.
How is that the igniter for growth?
Man, we actually had this. We was talking about this earlier. One of my boys, Martin. Me and Martin was talking about this earlier, Luna. But he was basically saying how people are afraid to invest, because they, save up a lot of money or whatever it is. They get access to a lot of money. And then what happens is they pour all their money into it. And then if it doesn't work out, they never do it ever again, which is very true. But what I was telling him is, in everything that you do, which I said it earlier, Luna, that's where you get your experience from. You're not going to hit the first time or the second, you gotta, it's like when you're playing that game, you're not gonna probably beat that level on the first time. You know what I'm saying? You're not, it's gonna take a few times. I bet you that same kid, if he sit on that game all day, he's gonna beat the whole game, by the time the couple of days is over with or whatever. So it's just the same game of life. You got to be willing to be okay with failing, because that's how you learn the experience. Sometimes you got to be dog shit at some of these things when you first starting out, even when it's whatever it's doing, even content creation. They say the best thing when you create content is to continue to create, that's the best thing, because after you keep creating, naturally you're going to get better, and you're going to look at episode 1 and 2 and be like, the hell was I on? That was horrible. But, by the time episode 40 comes, it's a lot better. So not to completely, Coach Steve, go against the grain of where you was at earlier when you was talking about failure, but I'm not going to lie, all right? I think we normalize failure too damn much. I think that's the problem with the new way of society. I think we motherfuckers is packed. I'm
Give it. Let's go. Don't stop now, Coach.
Now, huh?
Let's go, Coach.
I think,
you already got the clip going.
Too many people are patting you on your back. Everybody does not need a ribbon. Everybody does not need a participation, medal or trophy. Like, it's first, second, and third. If you didn't reach third, those are life lessons. Work your ass off so next year you can get in the top 3.
Yes, sir.
And now it's you have too many. There's too many now. Everybody has mental health issues, and it's too many. Pat on the back, and that's why this new generation, they're having so much of a hard time being able to adapt to the recent economy, jobs, this and that, because they don't know how to have a work ethic. They don't know how to fail, because when you get older and you fail, guess what? People ain't gonna be patting you on your back. You're on your the rent's due on the first.
Yeah.
So it's just like right now, I feel that we have to have a healthy balance of, letting people know, like, it is okay to fail. That's where you get experience from, but still, normalizing that, that competitive, like we said, having the balance between challenge and support groups. It all comes back to what we was talking about before. As y'all can see, I'm the challenger, and then of course, look at what I'm talking about.
Don't make failure a habit, is what it sounds like you said.
Don't make failure a habit. There you go.
It's not. It should not become your standard.
Exactly.
It's a process. Right. It's part of the process.
Right.
But that should not be. You should not just. Oh, I failed. What am I gonna learn today? Type head. Exactly. Like, no. I was like, that's not the standard, bro. Like, you still want to succeed.
That's where we got to start getting people to switch that mindset, right? And when we talk about normalizing failure, and I'm glad, Coach Rack, I'm glad you unloaded on us on this one, because this is exactly what I'm talking about. Yes, we want to normalize failure to the point of I failed, Now, what changes need to happen and what actions need to happen so that I can no longer fail? Right. And I think that's the part that's missing with with this generation that we have right now, is that we're okay with failing. And again, I saw it when I was coaching grade school, and that's why I'm like, Luna, I wish you the best, sir, because it was a struggle. It was a struggle. It was an absolute struggle, because again, we would play games, and then after the game, it's like there was no score. You guys, so this team just won. Exactly. Like, no, bro, no, absolutely not. I just coached this team, and we just beat this team ass 42-3. There's a score. There's a score. There's a loser on one side of this field. So I get it. And again, we gave everybody a medal. You gave everybody got a piece of paper saying they participated. Like, yeah, this is great. But what are you teaching these kids at the end of the day? Like, I can go out here and half-ass it and still get a medal just like everybody else. And that's the mindset that you are now putting into these kids' heads. So when they do have a challenge, when they do have something that requires you to be a little bit more than just average, they don't know how to push through.
Hey, man, that's why we got grown men now looking around like, where mine's at?
True.
You mean? I mean, where yours at? What you do? I saw a meme, and it said his generation so lazy today, they'll quit a job. If you gave them a job sleeping, they'll wake up and quit. Like,
I gotta sleep all day. I'm done with this.
Well, that ties back. My
nephew has always been from little Charlie, best on his team. Like, everybody telling him how good he is and everything like that. And I've been trying to be the one person that's been on the other side, letting them know, this is what it is. This is what you got. So finally, I've been trying to tell him about high school. So finally, he goes in 9th grade. So he's in 9th grade, running back. All right, in 9th grade, and they go out there with the starting lineup. They put the start. All right, ones, you're out. Charlie ain't out there with that first group. Probably first time in his lifetime that he hasn't been on the starting squad. So when he hit me back after the game, and we're talking, and he's telling me about, like, how he feel and all this different stuff. So the biggest thing that I love that we're doing right now is, after these games, even when he has a good game or whatever it is, or when he has a bad game, he's coming to me on things that he already know that he should have been doing, or that he should have, we're working on. That's how you push forward to where we at right now. If you fail, like, okay, you failed, but then what are you doing after that point to get back to what you need to work on? How are you working on that? How are you moving forward with it? You see what I'm saying? Because we already know what the goal is now. The goal is for him, we already know what his goal is now. Now let's work towards it. Let's get on it. Let's get to it. You know what I'm saying? Not everybody patting you, it's going to be, no, it ain't going to be okay. You're a 2 right now. All right. Your goal is to be on with the number 1, with back up with the ones right now. All right, cool. Let's get back in the lab and get to work.
Absolutely.
You see what I'm saying?
Yeah, it need to be fuel. The L need to be a fuel. There need to be a gasoline. This ain't pity party time.
Well, it's funny you said it needs to be the fuel. I had a coach that I used to coach with in college who told me some people use failure as a fuel, and some people use it as the air in the tire. Great. It's just more air in the tire.
Yeah.
But the more L's you take, and you ain't doing nothing with it, what happens when you put too much air in the tire?
Yep.
Hey, you can't spell fuel. I mean, that's what you can't spell failure without fuel. You need FUEL.
There you go, bro. There you go. Facts.
Facts.
Bars. Put them on the next. Put them on the next album.
I'm not around.
Next album. Well, I feel inspired after this conversation, fellas. I definitely feel inspired after this. I know we're running a little bit over on time right now. But really quick, does anybody Would anybody like to share a vulnerable moment? A quick vulnerable moment?
Shoot, I will. I'll pop it off. Mine came after my freshman year of college. I had just got to Texas State. I wasn't on the team my first fall semester. And as a result, I had a 1.75 GPA. I was on a academic probation going into the spring. And there was a class that spring that I ended up taking that I made a D on. So I automatically thought, like, bro, this is it. Like, damn, I did all this hard work going from U of H walk on, JUCO walk on. Now I'm at Texas State walk on. Like, I don't know what this whole journey, and the one thing that I'm supposed to be taking care of, I'm about to fumble the bag, you know. And but I remember sitting there. I was in my apartment. This is when I used to live at the Grove, right? I was sitting in my apartment, bro, boohoo crying. Like, bro, I was legitimately hurt. Like, damn, this is it, bro. Like, God gave me this opportunity with the coaching staff that came in. Coach Niver was recruiting me coming out of when he was at Rice. He comes in, he gets me on the team, and I'm about to mess up the one thing I'm supposed to be taking care of. And I remember, like, vividly, I was just like, it was like a switch. And I was like, man, you know what? From this point on, I ain't finna make academics my problem no more. So I ended up taking like 3 classes that summer. My mom still doesn't know anything about this. So, Mom, if you're listening, sorry.
Vulnerability.
Sorry. But it was more vulnerable to like myself as far as like, it's all right to, you know, cry and like be like, you know what, bro, you tripping. You know what I'm saying? Like, bro, I legitimately was mad at myself. Like, I almost like, if I could have fought myself, I would have took an L. You know what I'm saying? Like, I would have beat myself up for sure. And it was just that moment where for me, it was just like, man, you got to go ahead and get your priorities back in order. Because I was partying way too much that first semester at Texas State. If you know anything about Texas State, there's a party every single day. You can find a party. Like, that's easy. And I damn sure was finding those parties. I wasn't paying attention. I wasn't paying attention to my emails. I damn sure didn't know that there was online homework every single day in some of my classes. I didn't know it was journals supposed to be turned in. I'm over here just thugging. And I'm like, oh, bro, I had 3 Ds and a C. It was bad, dog. I was down bad. 1.75 GPA, my first time at a public university. Before that, I came in with a 3.2 or something like that. So I was good. Ended up balancing out, but my GPA dropped to like a 2.1. I'm like, bro, I'm on the spectrum. You know what I'm saying? They like to kick me out this stuff. But that was one moment for me, bro. Like, it was, I mean, I got plenty of vulnerable moments, but that was one that feels kind of like in here as far as holding myself accountable and understanding like I failed at this moment. You know what I'm saying? From this point forward, what am I going to do? What actions am I going to take to go ahead and mess up again? So
Coach Rack, Coach Lloyd, or do I get the pleasure of going next?
Man, you gonna take
tag myself in. You taking too long. I'm
take
in.
the wheel.
Tag myself in. I obviously, just like Coach Luna, just like everybody on this pod, and anybody that has lived a life more than let's say 3 years old, has had some kind of challenge in their life or something that they have to deal with. I'll take one that's a little bit closer, partly because I just had a couple conversations with my son about being a little bit more vulnerable, saying that he doesn't know how to do certain things. So, example, he's in AP classes right now. So he's taking all the advanced stuff right now, all that new math that everybody's doing right now, where they can count backwards 6 and add 2 and get the right answer every single time. Like, all that extra stuff, that's what they're doing right now. So I can't really help him too much with all this homework stuff they're doing right now. If we can't do it the old way we used to do it, I don't know what you're talking about. So I'm going to tell you probably the biggest point of my life, or one of the biggest points of my life where I felt vulnerable, is when my wife came to me and told me she was pregnant. that scared the absolute shit out of me. I'm responsible for another human. That means I have to be dad. And the thing that was intimidating that I never admitted is that I saw, and Coach Lloyd, you know my dad very well. My dad was very much like Coach Lloyd's dad, minus the cursing. My dad was very PG when it came to a lot of stuff. He was as square can get, but the most stand-up individual that you ever want to meet in your entire life, right? He'll make sure he'll get your shirt off his back, but he expected you to work, right? And I saw the type of man that my father was. And now I have the responsibility of doing the same for a child that's mine.
Yeah.
That's a weight for anybody that has children or has a child. And I know Coach Ryan going through it right now, which I have no doubt in my mind that he's going to be a kick-ass dad. He's going to have a ball with his son. But that initial feeling of, I have to be responsible for this person. I have to provide for this person. I have to be the example for this person, right? I have to be vulnerable for this person, right? Like, this is a person that I'm going to have to lead by example. I'm going to have to create that safe environment for that individual. I'm going to have to give him constructive feedback, right? I'm going to have to normalize failure for him so he knows how to grow. I'm going to have to highlight success stories. I'm going to have to give him step-by-steps on certain things that he may or may not, go through, right? I'm going to have to promote, a self-confidence and a self-compassion for himself. So that way he don't have to deal with all the mental problems that everybody else is dealing with right now, that he feels capable, right? I did not feel like I was able at the time, that I was able to pour that into a child. I feel like I'm still immature at this point, and I have now got to grow up quick. So anybody that's had a kid that had, at an early age or whatever the case may be, right? You had a kid, period, in any situation, you have to grow up quick. You've got to mature fast. And if you don't, life is going to kick you right in the ass. Yeah. Bars.
Man, that was appreciate you sharing with us, man. I mean, I have so many, vulnerable moments. I know that one of the big ones that stand out with me is prior to me coming to Texas State University, I had got into some faced some adversity at my former school, Colorado State University. And just that whole process, man, I was probably at the lowest part of my life, because it was pretty bad, man. You really learn a lot about 2 moments between that moment and the moment I got hurt, but you really learn a lot about a lot of individuals, a lot of people, and how people view athletes, the worst coming out of people, fan bases, turning on you after you was you went from the golden child to the dang, villain, so it was a tough, and then at that time, they really didn't have the transfer portal. I wish they did, but they didn't have the transfer portal at that time. So that was the time that head coaches could really, and schools could pretty much stop you from transferring, and I was one of the ones that was actually going to go from where I was and elevate into a bigger school at that time. We had all kind of offers at the time, Oklahoma State, Baylor, this school. So the most vulnerable moment that I had, man, was when, I got a call from the athletic director. I had already moved in. I've already was at the Grove. I got my apartment in Waco. We had already made it through all the extra stuff. And I was finally, because it was my dream to play Big 12 football. So when it didn't, the offer from Oklahoma State didn't go through because it got turned down from their main person. What happened is I was going to go to Baylor. So I was at the Grove, moved in, was just waiting to get cleared. I don't know. Day 1 came, they were in camp, didn't get cleared. Day 2 came, and then on the 3rd day, we're finally like, all right, we finally get a call from the athletic director. And the athletic director informs me that they're not going to be able to, they're going to be rescinding their offer. We already signed my scholarship paper and everything. Signed my scholarship paper. We're just literally waiting to get admitted to school. So they're rescinding the offer because Colorado State refuses to sign off on the transfer. So I don't think I had a lot of hate for that school for a while. If anybody don't realize, that's probably why I never liked to claim them boys over there. But man, I sat in that car with my mom and we both just cried our ass off. You know, it was a very vulnerable moment at that time because that was the first time that I kind of felt like this may really be over. You know, in terms of me being able to play football at this level. This probably may be over because if I couldn't get, or I sat in our brow's office, our brow's was telling me I'm the man here. You know, like if I say you're getting in here. So the fact that guy who said those words to my mom couldn't get me into school, I was like, I ain't gonna be able to get in nowhere. You know, and it wasn't until we got to Texas State's campus, finally, they answered the phone like, you want to come here? So it wasn't until we got to Texas State and we met with the AD and the president, and it was Trout, Dr. Trout at that time. Her and Larry Trout, her and Larry Tice and Coach Fran was able to, the only way that I would have got admitted into Texas State University is if we had a president's signature override. What happened is Oklahoma State's Baylor president did not want to override and sign that document. So the Texas State president did the unthinkable and just signed it and overrode Colorado State, and that's how I got admitted into Texas State University. So, man, that's why I'm so big of a fan of that school, man. I couldn't. It's like they gave your boy a second chance at life during that time. And it was crazy, but that was a super vulnerable moment for me. Yeah.
That's a great story. Again, a situation where you encountered failure and literally turned it completely around. Yeah. You made a success out of it. So again, thank you for sharing. Thank you for sharing, sir.
Appreciate it.
Coach Lloyd, I know you can go into a couple stories. There's one in particular I do not want you to share at the moment. But if you could
give a hint on what you're talking about to make sure I do not. Because I'll go in.
I know, but we don't have that much time now.
Nah, I'm not gonna go that deep.
So don't go into that story though. But you can please share.
I want to kind of tie in everything we talked about with what I've had the opportunity to think about which moments I want to pull from with you three talking. So I'm not diving deep into what you may think I'm diving into. I'm gonna talk about, because I want everybody to take something from this. It took me a very long time to develop emotional intelligence, to even share emotions, show emotion. I've had to have like different things trigger them. I wouldn't share them. I've had different things catch me off guard. I was triggered by things I didn't know that were triggers. But you want to talk about bottling? I probably bottle better than Coca-Cola, or used to. Bad. I was bad. So I'll tell you about this case. When I was working at nursing college, I worked for Chamberlain University. It's actually how I ended up down in Houston. I was doing financial aid initially and academic advising, transition, and clinical coordination. We had this event for our students, and obviously most of the the staff, for the most part, everybody's a nurse, aside from administration. And so we had this event for our students to We had some guest speakers to kind of talk about their experience in the hospital, kind of get them prepared, get them to kind of open their eyes and hear some things to help them get a good feel for what they're going to deal with. Because, it's one thing, especially with nursing, it's one thing to be in a classroom, be in a simulation, and another thing to actually be out there, with the things you may have to deal with, emotionally dealing with things aside from just doing your job and being competent. So they asked me to actually share my experience from a patient standpoint. Obviously, this goes back to the accident, right? I had a significant amount of time in the hospital, in and out of the hospital, 9 surgeries in total. So I talk about what the nurses meant to me during that time, especially being a adolescent at the time, and actually seeing them more than seeing my parents or any family for that matter. Eventually mom and pops had to go back to work. They couldn't sit in the room for the amount of time I was in there. And as I'm talking about this experience with them and recalling some of the nurses I remember a specific moment where my grandfather visited me, and I forgot. Well, he said something along the lines, "Can I see your leg?" Now I'm down bad. I'm down bad, like mentally, emotionally. I'm trying to hold it together because what we talked about earlier, we are taught to wear this mask, right? Be the tough guy, thug through it. Even as a child, I'm trying to do that. And my grandfather being one of the closest men in my life, who I spent many days with growing up, working, him just trying to keep my head on straight with the environment we were growing up in, and, trying to make sure I went to church. And I just exploded on him. That bottle that you were shaking up, Luna, at the top came off. And a man that I never want to disrespect ever, I'm like, why you want to look at my leg? And he was shocked, how I came off at him. And I remember this particular moment. I forgot how I even tied into, what I was sharing, what particular part in the hospital I was talking about to make me recall that in that moment, I had bottled up my emotions and how I felt because of how I made him feel for so many years. And you want to talk about vulnerability. When I tell you I got choked up in a damn hall full of nurses, professors, all these doctors, I'm talking about my mentor walks over. I'm just sitting there, hands on the podium, just like pause, like I can't speak. Tearing up. I just break down, completely exposed. And now the whole room boohooing.
Right.
The whole room boohooing. I'm up there like, just give me a second, give me a moment. But like I held that so long. At the time that I was talking to him, he had passed just a few years before that. So all of that came rushing back to me because even in his passing, I didn't truly mourn it, And so good thing that actually helped a lot of those students in that situation. My vulnerability actually helped them. They got an opportunity to kind of understand the influence and the role they play in people's lives as nurses, and what people actually going through. Like when you're dealing with a grumpy patient or whatever type of person you're dealing with, take a second to think about what's happening on their side, why they reacting like that, and what you actually mean, and how much your support, not being challenging, right? It's the point where they just need the support, where your support and your job has to go hand in hand and hold them up. And so I wanted to share that moment because, your boy boo-hoo through the rest of that speech. I finished it out. I thugged it out, but like, I never really been considered a crier. Even my brother, Steve only seen me, but one time. We ain't gonna talk about that.
Let's say maybe once.
Yeah. He only seen me once break down, but yeah, true vulnerability there. But that was a case where it really helped others, but you got to be careful because it could blow up in a situation where it can do damage to you too. So having somebody to talk to through those things.
Absolutely.
It could also, again, and I don't want to talk about on in the negative connotation, but it could also have a negative effect for some of those individuals that maybe not had their full heart in being a nurse. Now you understand what it takes to be a nurse, because you now hear from the perspective of a patient who had to go through this situation and what you had to do as a nurse to be there for that person, right? If their heart ain't fully in it and they just heard that story, maybe this ain't the role for you. Maybe it's something else you should be doing, right? So again, you probably gave a perspective to a lot of individuals in that room and probably saved a shit ton of lives, because you have some people that actually care about being a nurse now, or that probably have a level of care of being a nurse that they probably didn't have before. Love it, man. Well, again, if you like what you heard, this was an amazing pod when we talk about vulnerability. Hit that like and subscribe button. Give us a time when you've been vulnerable in the comments, if you feel like sharing. I would love to hear a quick story on someone that wanted to be that, how you were vulnerable and what you did to get through that particular situation where we didn't sit in it, right? We didn't just normalize failure, so to speak, right? We actually took action and moved ourselves from it, right? Again, if you like what you heard, please like and subscribe. If you want to hear more from the Coach Life guys, double checked our comments. Still no comments. Still no 50%. So it's still out there right now. If you guys want to grab it, go ahead and throw that comment in there. Again, if you like what you heard, please like and subscribe. Until the next time, guys, stay positive, my friends.
Woke up. When I start getting awards, know that I deserve it. I ain't getting choked up. Confidence come from preparation. Fundamentals that'll separate us. I document it just so it makes sense when y'all clowns see me elevated. You the type to take the elevator. I take the stairs by the escalator. You proclaim that you work hard. I show and prove that I'm dedicated. Y'all got failure traits. Ain't did nothing trying to celebrate. Why? You procrastinate. I bet tomorrow's your favorite day. In a minute is your favorite time. Just a second is your favorite line. One moment, please.